This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Hi, my name is Novo Mana, and welcome to another session of the Technology Review Council. We have with us today, we have Alvaro and NUBII, and I'm going to leave him to not only introduce himself, but he's going to take us on a tour. But I'm going to say I was absolutely excited when I saw this for so many different reasons. I'll let Alvaro explain a little bit of where NUBII started, and I've asked him to take us through the office environment, the event environment, which I think will be kind of very interesting for those who have gone to virtual conferences over the last 18 months or 2 years, and then also a little bit of the perspective of what it means to be in this particular world and the combination of a Zoom-like environment and this avatar-based environment. It is different in all respects. So I'll let him go, and Alvaro, you are on. Go for it.
Awesome. Thanks, Nav. So, first of all, let me give a tiny introduction about myself. I'm from Spain, if you can tell by the accent. But I've been living in the US for quite a while now. I studied in Boston University, and then since then I started working with NUBII, which is this platform, my last year of college, and then after that I've been working with them since. And basically how NUBII started was Singular Factory, which is the parent company of NUBII, which is an online development firm. We were remote. The whole team is kind of all over the place. We're in Spain, we're in the US, we're in South America, and we used to have the typical Zoom call all day, 24/7. But after a while of that, and this was before COVID or anything, after a while of that, we realized it wasn't really working for us. It was very intrusive. It was very repetitive, and it's true that obviously it managed to get the team to communicate for a little bit, but other than the time we're spending together in that Zoom call, the rest of the time, we had no idea about what the rest of the team was doing. And so we finished a big project with the client, and so we had like a free month there. And my boss decided to try to make this gamified, I guess, version of Zoom in a sense. So we created NUBII initially as an internal tool, like I'm saying, just simply to have more context and to be more connected, and to make it much more interactive while we're all working from different places in the world. And once we finished the first, I guess, the first part of it, or the first, I guess, initial project, we realized that the family and friends that we showed it to were all very impressed by it, and they all saw the power it had and the value it could bring. And so we, the light bulb clicked, and we realized there was a cool project behind it, and so that's when it became an independent project. And yeah, from there on, it's been quite a journey. We basically, the first time we did it, it was aesthetically, like visually, it was very pretty, but we learned a lot because we made it on Unity, which is a gaming architecture. I won't get into the technical details too much, but basically, it would consume a lot of the power of your computer, and because we wanted to use it for everyday use, it was not viable, because again, it would just, your ventilator in your computer could like go crazy and everything. So we had a 3-month period where we just did a full refactoring, and we did the whole platform again in HTML. So it's very light now, it's very stable, and that's where we're at now. In terms of the use we give it, right now, because it's in Spain, it's like 9 p.m. There's no one in the office, but if we came into this office in the morning, this would be full of little avatars, and obviously behind every avatar there's a person, and it just allows us to be much more connected. So for example, in terms of functionalities, one of the main ones is really just like Zoom. So this is my little avatar here. When I go into a room, I connect to the call automatically. And again, this is just like Zoom, hello. And then you have you can share your screen and mic and camera and so on, and you can chat with people in the room. And for example, if I want someone to come, so let's say Jorge, who's here, I send an airplane, which is that little extra sound. Because we use it, which might seem silly, but because we use it all the time, it's always like you have it on the tab, and while we work on other things, we have NUBII open. It allows us to call other colleagues and for them to hear us and know that we're calling them. See, now Jorge is coming because I just called him and he heard the noise. So it's actually a very useful functionality. And so when Jorge walks into the room, like he just did, he connects. Hola Jorge, encantado. Nada, era para enseñar NUBII, te dejo para, gracias, tío. Chao. That's all. Okay,
so Alvaro, are you going to take some questions as we're going through this? As we go through this, if you don't mind. So the first thing I would ask you, I know my eyesight is failing, but I wonder, could you make the screen a little larger? Thank you, in the Zoom. That's perfect. So I think, to your point of the details, um, if I'm going to build an environment like this for my office, I can really even replicate almost identically what my office looks like in real world. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, right now, the goal is for every customer to kind of edit their space to make it exactly how they want. Right now, we have four types of spaces in terms of office spaces, like four designs or predetermined layouts, and you can just switch from one to another as many times as you want. And what you can already personalize is all the rooms, all these names that we have here, Polo, pizza room, etc. All of those you can change, and you can change the logo in the room. Right now, the screens, for example, are empty, but you can add a logo, and here, there we go. I lost it here,
Right.
and then that logo. So you personalize all the rooms and so on. What we're doing now, which we'll get there soon, is allowing users to move the rooms around and so on. But as long as the value is there in terms of connecting the team, we didn't think that was priority, so we haven't finished it yet, but it's on the way for sure.
So I'm going to ask the question for those who are still a little bit skeptical about the world of virtual anything, and I'm on the opposite end of it. So why would I find this to be, shall we say, helpful as opposed to, let's say, a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting? And the reason I asked that question is because you acquainted me with that. Not only was it fun to build and to do it, but it had some value when you were trying to deal with the global team. So please.
Correct. Correct. Right. Yes, that's a great question. So the way we like to think about it is kind of Zoom with a community behind. So basically, the idea is it's great that you can, video chat with your colleagues and for a little bit be connected with them, but the communication within the team shouldn't end there. There should be a lot more that I guess encompasses the overall relationship. And if you really want to create that culture where people can feel like a team, you need to have a lot more functionalities. Sorry, someone just called me. But anyway, so what we're trying to do is we have the same functionality in terms of you can go into a room and you can call. But the beauty of this is when this is full of people in the morning, when everyone's working, I see all the people meeting in these different rooms. So I know if I need to talk, for example, to Jorge, we can just jump into a call quickly. Or if I want to call him directly, I can just go on here. I don't need to send a Zoom link and then whatever. When I want to go for lunch, so let's say I'm going out for lunch, I change my mode, my state, and I just say I'm eating. And my avatar goes into the kitchen and it changes that. So the rest of the team, so Jorge now, for example, can see that I want to eat lunch and he's not going to try to call me or whatever because he knows I'm out for lunch. And if I go for vacation, same thing. I click here and I go on vacation. Oh, sorry, you have to say when you're coming. But my point being, it gives you a lot more context of the overall team, of what everyone's doing, and it allows the experience to be, to be much better. So it's not really, it's an extension of Zoom. That's how we like to think about it. It's a Zoom with a community behind. That's the goal.
Well, and I think to your point, and again, like I say, getting that reality check, if you will, with the virtual world and its value. To your point, what you showed, I'm off to lunch, I'm out of the office for a while, I'm on vacation, whatever. All those kind of things are components of the other things like a Zoom or Teams or whatever. And that's a nice thing, but literally, I don't have to go much further than saying, "Hey, there's Alvaro in the lunch room," that kind of stuff. So it kind of adds a little, shall we say, an ease of use. I guess is probably the fastest way to look at it. If I were in the office, I'd go look for it in the lunchroom. So,
Right.
but the idea of this kind of joining of the real world and the virtual world, the addition of your Zoom-like qualities, the audio, the video, and so on. Have you seen? I mean, did you start out with that, or did that come a little bit later in terms of the capabilities?
No, we started off. I mean, we were gonna need it, so it was from scratch. We started with the functionality of we use Amazon Web Services, but it's basically the same idea. So, but it was the beginning from scratch for sure. It was one of our main functionalities.
Well, I didn't mean to take you off trail of your your introduction and so on, but I do want to say to the audience here that this is, I will say, it has uses, and as Alvaro's team has shown that in their own office space and their global team. But I think when we then take another tour into the more virtual kind of a conference situation, you'll see an additional dimension of this that has a very different perspective. And then I think the last one, and I'd love you to kind of, as we go down that path, show us NUBII City, because I think that has a very different perspective of what that means, and we can talk a little bit about that. But please go ahead, talking about the office space here.
Right. No, I mean, it's basically what you're saying. I think, well, I'll get into the event space later, but with the office, and here's a little secret for all of you. I was a little bit skeptical actually when I started with NUBII, because I guess the gamification behind it and so on, it might pull you back. You might not seem like, oh, this is not professional enough for a work environment. And I couldn't understand the value behind it at the beginning until I started using it. And I started, needing to call someone, immediately calling them, or seeing that who's out for lunch and not distracting them, or seeing who's in a meeting room and jumping in there. And then I started getting used to it. And now it's like I fully understand what it does. It really makes the communication so much more efficient. So I think in that sense, once you live it, once you experience it, it helps a lot to understand how it makes a lot of sense. But anyway, and then quickly, I'll start with functionalities because I'm going to lose all of you. But basically, other than the meeting rooms we have here and being able to call a specific user, we have the webinar room, which is this one down here, which it works literally like a webinar. When people walk in, only the people that have permissions, the camera will turn on. The rest of the people can just chat and listen. And that's mainly if you have any sort of presentation or anything like that, and you don't want people distracting you, it's the ideal way to do that. And then lastly, we have this speed networking room here, which basically how it works is when users walk into the room, it connects you with other users with another user, so one-to-one calls for X amount of minutes. The admin can choose that, so let's say 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, it automatically switches to someone else. And the goal with that is to allow the teams to kind of network with each other and force that initial connection there. And in fact, in our company, we use it every Friday, because it might not seem like it, but when you're working day to day, you usually talk to the same people. You don't talk to everyone in the team, and so it helps a lot with making sure everyone gets to know each other and connects with other users that they don't usually talk to. So that's actually a great functionality, and that's it with the office. That's all. I'll go into
let me. You've got a fan out here, and Bobby and I have been friends for quite a while here. But she was saying, and I think in support of what you were saying, it's visual, and people like visual, and there are visual clues. So it is it's close to being in the office as you're going to get, to be able to look around and say who's there, who's not, and so on. But when you talk about the speed networking, so from a company standpoint, if I was on a large company and people popped in there, what you're saying is that speed networking is going to start connecting me with people I normally do not connect with. And therefore, so what happens, and do you want to demonstrate that here, or do you want to demonstrate that in the event space?
If you go in there, we'll just connect to the networking.
Oh, I probably should have. My apologies. I'll do that, and then I'll meet you out there in a bit. But yeah, what Alvaro has shown me is that the speed networking allows me to have a conversation with a new person, and then automatically says, hey, thank you for talking for a while. Boom, let me close it up. Let me go find somebody else in that speed networking room. I saw that as a great advantage in an event situation where you're just trying to make new contacts. So.
Sorry, enough. I was while you were talking, I came into the room. I'm gonna see if Jorge comes. I'm not sure if he's gonna come in because.
Gotcha.
But if you guys can see the networking room just to get a quick idea. Yes, he's coming in. Great. So obviously it gets even cooler when there's like 30 people in here, because you just see a lot of avatars in there. But basically how it works is the first time it takes like 20 seconds to connect to the call, because it waits to see how many people there are in the room before it starts like automatically connecting you. So it's gonna take a little second, and then once okay, there we go. Okay.
There we go.
Let's see. Okay, so that's Jorge. Jorge, give me 1 second. All right, so basically how it works is this is the game we added. It's just kind of like to break the ice at the beginning, just to make it easier for people to connect. You don't have to play. You can play if you want to, but it's a basic game. And then, so the idea is me and Jorge can talk for, in this case, you see here his name, Jorge, and I can show you his profile, and I have his info, and I can send it to my email and so on. But we talk for 1 minute and 30 seconds, and when Jorge and I are done, the call will automatically reconnect to someone else in the room. Right now, it's just me and Jorge, so you're not really going to see anyone else. But the idea here is exactly that. If you talk for X amount of minutes with someone, you can play the game if you want to. That's completely optional. And after you're done with the game, and after you're done for that X amount of minutes, then you just switch to someone else. And that's it. Okay, ya está, Jorge.
So
ya está.
Yeah, and you know what the power of that, what you are showing, and for those of you who may not have been familiar with the game, that was called Pong. I won't say that I played it when I first was young, but it was a while ago. But nonetheless, I was familiar with the game. But the point of it is, the speed networking really had a really interesting benefit, and you showed that I can bring whoever I'm speaking to their information to me. I can bring it and I can pop them in my network or whatever the case is. Again, I'm thinking about those event situations where you've been there and you're trying to speed network, even in the real world, and it's not that easy. So this is kind of well thought out in terms of that ability to meet others and converse with them, and then also remember who you met, which is kind of cool. You have to explain to all of us, because I wasn't quite sure I understood it. So if I'm in the lunchroom, what's happening in the lunchroom?
So basically, and today I was explaining to another user. Right now, when you go into the lunchroom, so when you change your state, so I'm busy. Sorry, I changed it place. And then I'm gonna go eat. Basically, just my avatar goes straight to the kitchen. And then this little emoji here, I don't know if you can see. This emoji obviously changed into like a food, like a salad. And so from my point of view, nothing has changed in terms of I'm still here and I can go somewhere else. But for Jorge, if he tries to call me or anything right now, he's not gonna be able to connect to the call. So the same way I called him before and he connected, because I'm eating, I'm busy, and you can see that because I'm in red also behind he's in green, I'm in red. And he's not gonna be able to connect. So what we're trying to do with that is like give people privacy and so at the same time allow the team to know what you're doing, but also from your perspective to have privacy. If you're working and you don't want people to distract you, you can just change this so that they can't call you. They can send you a message or whatever, but they won't call you. So that's the idea behind it,
Yeah, and I think that respect of privacy slash time away, so to speak, is a very good thing to have. Sometimes we have interruptions constantly that doesn't allow you to just have anything going on in your life.
Right, and sorry, no, I'll let me add a tiny thing to the end of that. And with the privacy thing, it was actually one of the reasons why we're kind of over Zoom, only because the only way we had to be connected all the time and be able to speak all the time was with, obviously, we had the video conference on. The issue with that was if you forget for 1 second to turn your camera off or something like that, and you just leave to do other things, the rest of the team is there, so they're gonna see exactly what you're doing. So it definitely helps make sure there's no little mistakes there in that sense, which helps a lot.
So I was looking to see if there are any questions, but so let me allow the audience to kind of open up their mic if they want to say anything or any perspective. Did you want to do any more in the office, or did you want to go to the event world?
We can do the event one if you want.
Okay. Anybody have any questions around the office situation? The obvious thing in the hybrid workforce is that we've all been dealing with the loss of productivity or questions about productivity and that. How have you experienced it, or what have you experienced in the perspective? Do you think there's a loss of anything, or are you seeing maybe greater interaction and engagement of people?
For a hybrid model, we think that is what's the future. We think, like with NUBII, my team, like we're going for a full remote kind of situation in the future. But realistically, we think, in fact, that's what we have with us. I go to the office. We have an office here in Miami. I go every day. But we connect to NUBII regardless of being in the office because we have teams in Venezuela, we have teams in Spain. So for us to all be connected in the same place, even if some of us are in the office, it allows us to still communicate with those who aren't there. So it honestly helps a lot, even if it seems like, why would you need this if you're already like in the office? Because it allows you, for those who are not there with you, to be able to know what's going on. So that's actually where we're trying to head with NUBII. To support that hybrid model for sure.
Any questions or comments or anything? If not, Alvaro, why don't you take us off to the world of events and let's take a quick look there. And it's a little different in that sense, and it is geared for those of us in the audience who have been at a couple of virtual events. This is a little different look and feel. So let's
yeah. Okay, you're gonna see the city now. No, I know we won't go into it. We can come back to it. Just to go into
Okay.
the event, I need to go into the city. But
Oh, sure.
and while it charges, I think last thing, and this is like a tiny secret, but it also helps a lot for the team to kind of have control over what others are doing. Because okay, let's see, which one they want to go into. Oh, yours,
Okay.
collective.
You're going to Collective HR Solutions Space, which I'm very proud of. Thank you.
Anyway,
Built by NUBII, by the way.
exactly. It allows for the team and I guess the managers to have more control and make sure that the employees are actually working. Because if, for example, for us, if we don't see someone in the office in our office space in NUBII, we worry like, where is this? Why isn't he in the office? So it helps you understand what's going on. And in the same way, if someone is in NUBII and I call them and they don't pick up, then that means probably they're not in front of the computer. So where, like, if you didn't change your state to say you're busy working or you're out for lunch, then why aren't you in front of your computer? Because you're technically working. So in that sense, obviously that's not the goal, but it does help in that sense to have more control over what everyone's doing, just to make sure we're all on the same page. And yeah, so this is the event space. This is no event space. Let me walk in. If you can and want, come in up so we can show it together. But I don't know if you can because you're in this call at the same time. But anyway.
No, I should have. I apologize. I haven't had a chance to jump over there, but no, go ahead. So one of the things that Alvaro and I spoke a little bit, and what I've seen in these virtual situations where you've got platforms, I come in and I get an agenda of something I want to go find, and I go to a webinar or a session that's going on. Do you mind kind of talking through that process? And that's a little different because I'm going to a meeting room where others could be out there in that same room with me, with my avatar. And in a sense, I am in an audience, right? And I'm watching a screen.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so let's go. I mean, I'll go quickly over the exhibitor booth. Just this different booths. We can obviously change the names and the logos and everything for each one to be a different, I guess, company or project or department or whatever you want it to be.
Or speech or topic, yeah.
And it really just works like a meeting room in the other space. When you walk into it, you connect to the call and you connect to anyone that's in the room. I mean, right now there's no one here, but that's the functionality, and it helps allow with events, with virtual events, to allow people to have control over where they walk and who they talk to, and take advantage. For example, if there's like a bunch of companies here, we do a lot of job fairs, for example. If you see that here this company is full, there's like 20 avatars in this room, and then you see that this company has basically 2 avatars, then that might be a good moment for you to go talk to these people here, because they're gonna pay attention to you, whether here that you might not be able to talk. That's something, that control for the user, something that they don't have with more traditional video conference tools. So it's very helpful. And then this space here, this is the webinar area. So let's go over there. Going. Oh, and this is the networking area. Just like I showed you in the other space, it's the same thing, but in this just a little bit bigger because it's an event space. So here, it might seem like it's exactly the same as the other one, but that's because I'm technically like I have permissions as a presenter. So imagine I'm giving a presentation, I share my screen, whatever, and then if there were more people in this room right now, they would all show up here in this list, and I can take off the presenter, and that sends me. So now you see I don't appear here, and my functionalities are just to chat with the people in the room and to react to whatever they say or do.
So you have the same capabilities that you do in Zoom for let's doing a webinar. So I'm showing my slides, I'm watching the chat, I'm having people connecting and talking about things and so on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like exactly what you did at the beginning of the session. You're like, I'm gonna make you a presenter. It's the same thing. You go here and you make someone a presenter, and they show up, and when they're done, they go off. And then for the rest of the users, it's a lot more interactive and fun. Obviously, the whole experience. But really, the functionality of the actual webinar itself is going to be the same, which makes it easier to understand and to play around with. So yeah, that's basically the event space.
So the event space, the one thing that you and I did speak about this, and I think this is where the differentiation is that if you go to a virtual event, let's say a vendor exhibit hall of some sort, you usually have, if it's avatar based, you go to something and you've got an ongoing running screen and so on. But you literally could be notified as a sponsor sitting here. Somebody comes to your booth, so to speak, and immediately
Right.
here they are on like a Zoom look, and you're there, and you're actually in a not a chat dialogue, you're in a live dialogue. Very different situation, and I think as a vendor, I would rather spend that kind of interaction with a potential prospect or client than just chatting or leave a card behind or what your name and contact information. I think this is much more dynamic.
Of course, of course. And no, and it's, yeah, adding on to that, it's exactly that. It's also being able to choose who you speak to and having the opportunity to like instantly start talking to them. I think it's a big and it's an important thing that we offer here with the event space.
Yeah, I definitely. So I do want to ask some of my shall we say fellow IREM members out there, what's your gut feel of this as an event space perspective? I see Dennis and Shalander out there. Who else is out there with us? Cindy, you've got that background as well. I mean, I'm just kind of curious what's your first reaction? I told Alvaro we're going to give him a tough time while he's here, so.
I'm ready for it.
Cindy, did you want to say something? Go ahead, please.
In terms of the event space, I really like it. I like the ability to, everything, the capabilities you just showed, and see the definite need for that.
Yeah, I would say that even a company meeting where somebody wants to kind of segregate. Let's say you have a small departmental meetings, then you have a big company meeting. To me, there's just again, it's trying to replace virtual. I mean, the reality with virtual is a big chasm to cross in terms of people's adjustments. But once they're there, to Alvaro's point, I think it's very easy to both relate with it, have conversations with it, maybe even be innovative about how things get done in the office, so to speak, in terms of collaboration and communication. I'm curious about the thoughts, Alvaro, about the extension. Where's NUBII going these days in terms of further improvements in that?
Great question. So I mean, we have a very, very long road ahead of us, and the roadmap is super large. But right now, our focus is going to be to create a community. So if that's okay with you, I'm going to go to the city just so people can see it. So the idea is going to be to create a community in which users come in without necessarily having to create a space, and companies can have like a public space, right? So they can have like a public event space or a public office space, and users can go in and just walk around, talk to whoever is there, especially for events. If you just want people to walk in and I guess interact, the idea is to have the city, here's the community behind it, and here have a list of all the public spaces. So right now, all the spaces that you see, these are all different ones. They're all like parts. They're all spaces in which I'm part of. They're all private. So if you try to go in right now, you wouldn't see any of these. But the idea is to allow you companies or event planners or whoever really to have the choice to decide if they want to have a public open space or a private space or a combination of both. They could have a public space for potential customers or whatever, where when they come in they can talk, and then they have their own like private headquarters. That's completely up to the companies. But yeah, we want to make NUBII kind of a community where people can come to network. We're gonna have we want to make like a cafeteria where you're gonna walk in, and that networking thing that I showed you where you connect to someone else, it's gonna be basically that, but like a much bigger space. That's gonna be the cafeteria, for example. We're gonna have like an arcade area where it's gonna be like a bunch of games where you can also connect with people. And then we want hopefully one day to have like a lot of public events just listed here, and the clients, the users can come here and choose which one they walk in, and they can meet people, and the companies can show the products and so on. That's our end goal. There's so many things we have to do, and there's so many functionalities we have to improve, and within each of the different types of spaces. So for the office space, We want to make it like Nob was mentioning, being able to replicate exactly your own office. That's one of our objectives for the shorter term. For the event space, offering bigger spaces and different designs and so on. So, and we want to integrate with Slack, we want to integrate with Microsoft Teams. Yeah, well, there's a lot of things we want to do. But the end goal, long-term vision, is to have a community where it's kind of, you come in and you experience this virtual world kind of thing. That's
Right.
the end goal.
So Bobby's asked a question, and so I noticed that you certainly had a Zoom bar on there. So can you make the city bigger? Let's say zero in on one of these buildings, so that you have the ability to both shrink and enlarge, and so on.
Right.
Here's the tough question: is this on a mobile platform as well? Can I see it on my phone?
Great question.
And would I want to see it on my phone, which is probably a lot smaller than my screen today?
Yeah, no, for sure. So right now, as of today, we're developing the app, the phone app. It's already halfway through, so it will take probably 2 more weeks. The mobile version of it is going to be a little more simplified in terms of when you walk in, you're not gonna see the actual space. You'll just see like the different spaces, and then once you go into like a specific space, so now you go into an event space, you're gonna see all the different rooms, so all the booths, with which users in there, and you can click and join the call, or you can choose which one you want to go to. So it's gonna be a little bit more simplified, at least the first version. But obviously, at the end of the day, we want people to be able to network, which is the goal. So that's gonna be our initial process or approach. But
right.
Yes, in 2 weeks, give me 2 weeks. Yes.
Yeah. So Oral is making a very good comment here, and I'd like to. I'll just read it because she's always very right on this stuff. So it says, so many people have become Zoom tired, which is for some reason Zoom has now owned this space about these meeting situations. But so this is a refreshing take with the visuals. Reminds me of Roblox that keeps the kids entertained for long periods of time. So do you have any particular perspectives on that you'd want to say? Oral continues on, says that this gives it less of a sitting in front of a monitor vibe, which is true. It's much more action oriented, a little bit more busy. Well, I'm sure that I can kind of push this to the side in a sense and minimize my window to a degree and do other work. So I'm not going to just live in this world, but I'm going to certainly interact in this world.
No, of course, and I love that, because that is basically one of the main reasons why we initially did this project, because we were sick of Zoom. I mean, it was always the same thing, and it was just not what we wanted. So it's great to hear that, because that was initially one of the main reasons to start NUBII. And like you say, at the end of the day, it's we don't want to substitute Zoom itself, because we need to have that kind of option to video conference people. It's key to communicate, but that shouldn't be the limit of our experience. We should be able to see when people go out for lunch. We should be able to see when people are out on vacation. We should make it much more, I don't know, how to say, encompassing. I don't know if that's a word, but basically allowed for a much overall better experience than just video conference option. That's kind of the goal.
And so let's talk a little bit about any scalability concerns or limitations that of today. So if I have let's say a 500-person conference, am I hitting any limits out there in terms of what NUBII can accommodate? Do I run into different problems in that? So
that was obviously one of our main concerns, and how we're fixing that is when basically per space. So let's say for one of these, there's 250 users that can go into the space, but this is what I wanted to show you. For an event, for example, where you have 10,000 users, okay, which we've had a few with like around 2,000 users, you create several different spaces within one big multi-space or super space. And so for each one, the limit is 250, but you can have as many as you want of these ones. And the webinars between all of the different spaces are connected. So if I start a webinar, let's say in this dev space here, the people in this one in SF are also going to see the exact same one. So people are going to think in terms of the webinar, they're experiencing the same exact thing. They're in the same space, but really they're in several different ones, which is like the way around limiting the number of users we have. So in
Yeah.
total, right now, it would be 10,000 users for an event.
Okay. Yeah.
The limit the webinar would allow. Yeah.
So here's Elisa's question. Again, like I say, I really like our audience. We're very, shall we say, insightful about perspective. So Elisa's question is, since the workforce is multi-generational, have you seen any pushback or disinterest from older workers at your customers? Now, of course, I do represent a little older person, but what are you seeing from your customers out there?
Great question. I mean, being completely honest, I mean, it's obviously easier with younger generations just because they're so used to being in front of the screen all day that for them, really, it's not much of a challenge. And so it's true that it's been harder to convince some older generations, but I think overall it also just depends on the person. Some people like, no, if you freaking like you're just an expert in all this and like you live it and you know way more than I do basically. So I think it depends obviously, but overall I would say there's a little bit more push. But our goal is to make it so simple that even for people that are maybe technically not so advanced, it's not complicated to use. That is our goal, and we've lived it with some companies that use it today, where obviously they have older and younger people, but they use it every day, and everyone seems to be happy with it. So, yeah, it's a barrier, but it's definitely something we can come across.
And as you mentioned, you can create these contiguous spaces. I find it somewhat disconcerting in a virtual situation to understand where I really need to go next. In all honesty, I could walk across the hall and find out what I need to do and go down a block down the road and hang a right and stuff like that. So, you know, there's this kind of, as Bobby had said earlier, it's a visualization, something that allows me to kind of make that leap into this virtual world a little easier because of the spatial aspect of it. I am curious about the clients that you have today. What kind of people are you seeing gravitating to this? Are there any particular sectors or groups of people that are more inclined to do this than anything else?
Yeah, so for the event space, one of the main ones with a big difference is job fairs. Companies companies that host that kind of events, they come a lot to us because it just makes all the sense in the world to connect companies with students through this kind of experience. So in that sense, that's one of their main ones. And then from the office ones, we kind of have a mix. I think it's predominantly mid-sized companies where it's like between 20 to 50, let's say, who are able to adapt and kind of use a new software because they have that kind of space there to move around. But I guess that would be the main one. But we also have a lot of smaller companies that are small startups, because it's a way to connect everyone. It's cheap, and so it's a good way for them to feel connected while having less resources, I guess, than other options. So yeah, it would be mainly middle-sized companies, and in terms of sectors, it's really all over the place. It's really all over the place. I would say maybe more of those companies that don't require to have a specific product that you need to showcase constantly. So maybe more digital and so on, but really it's used by a lot of different companies. So I can't really specify one.
It strikes me when you start talking about that the smaller companies. Here in California and near where I am, there's a lot of incubators out there. Plug and Play and a whole bunch of others. These guys are charging a fair amount of brick and mortar space to a startup. So they have a desk and a cubicle or maybe several cubicles, and they're collaborating with other people. It strikes me that you could open up an incubator space and save me a ton of money and still get the same collaboration as you would get in another situation. And actually, because you can set up the rooms to be very private, I can have my own space for my own small team, but we still have the ability to collaborate with other people, get the chance to meet them, and so on. I mean, the incubators are a little bit of collaboration, just a place to organize yourself, and then also do a little bit of, presentations to other people, like investors and that. It strikes me you could easily set up an incubator space in here in record time.
Yeah, Yeah, it's true. We have, in fact, I think it's 2 incubators that are currently using NUBII. So I can speak for them when I say
let Gustavo know that's another idea.
so we definitely it's on the list. It's on the list, but it's a great idea.
Yeah, and then you mentioned job fairs. I want to take that a step further, because to tell you the truth, if I went to a job fair in a virtual situation and I have the combination of that Zoom-like interaction, I can say I want to go over to where the jobs are, and I'm going to go look at a board maybe of open jobs or however that works, or I want to go to this company because that's a company I want to work for. What have they got available to me? And then I could have a virtual video interview all at the same time. Can I drop things in this world? In other words, can I give you something like my resume, something of that nature?
Yep. In I think this Thursday we're gonna put up to production. So yes, in 3 days you're gonna be able to do that. Like put up like a file and put it up on the chat.
Perfect.
So
Very cool. Again, I'll ask the audience, what's your gut feel? Would you go to a job fair like this? Of course, you're getting paid in virtual money, so let's start on that process. No. Any thoughts or any perspectives? I personally, again, I'm going to challenge my IREM friends out there. I think we could easily have a job fair. We have a job board. We might as well have a job fair one of these days. So that's a nice way to do things. And like I say, from the standpoint of other improvements in that, what is your thoughts? I not to sound anything but, shall we say, helping as much as I can. The avatar based and the kind of a Roblox, as Oral had mentioned, is nice to deal with, but so much digitization is going on in animation these days. Do you believe you'll ever get to a true kind of a digitization of who I am in this virtual world? Can we get to that point sometime where you'd see me in the virtual street and there I am, and you know who I am because I look just like me in reality? Is that worth the time? Is it even helpful?
Yes. Yeah. So when we had the old version of NUBII, the one with Unity, you could personalize your avatar a lot. So basically, you change everything about yourself to make you seem exactly like you. And we took that, when we did the whole refactoring, we kind of limited the number of avatar options we gave. But the long term, obviously, we want to allow users to be able to fully kind of customize their avatars and make themselves look however they want. If they want to look exactly like themselves, great. And if they want to look different, that's also great. But allowing them to choose how they look. So it's definitely something where, I mean, we already did it. We would need to redo it in a way that's going to be much more, I guess, easier on your computers, let's say. But yes, that is something we have in the roadmap for sure.
And as you've mentioned, you're using Unity as the app builder for this process, and there's a lot of games that are built that way, where the quality, the HD quality of the visuals is just amazing. It's almost like literally being real. So I suspect that gives you an advantage maybe to continue to go down that road to be much more real looking, so to speak.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, to be fair, we used Unity and then we had to stop using Unity because it was consuming too much power. But obviously, we have the experience and the knowledge there because we did it once. So it would just be doing the same thing, a little bit more complicated because it would be in HTML. But I'm not really worried about that because I know the team can do it. They know what they're doing. I can guarantee that. So I'm not too worried.
So I don't see any further questions in the chat. Let me ask audience, are there any further? I mean, I had promised Alvaro to kind of grill him and test him out here. Any comments, any perspectives you'd like to share back with him? He's been hearing me since we first met a couple of months ago, so he's tired of hearing me. So anybody have any comments or perspective you'd like to share with Alvaro? He'll take it back to NUBII and
for sure.
Probably do good with it too.
Yeah. No, all the feedback we can get, the better.
Absolutely. Any comments or anything? Going once, going twice. Okay, so let me then ask you if you want to leave us with a couple of pointers of anything you'd like to ask of us So I will be sending out this particular session and the link to our YouTube channel, and I will include, as I did in the original invite, the opportunity. Can anybody just go out there and just play, so to speak? Can they link themselves into NUBII Study and just show up, register, and away they go? Alvaro, I'm sorry, that was my question to you. Can somebody use that link that I put in the invite? Can they go out there and just continue to play?
Yes. Sorry, I was looking at this. I've never used this tool, so I was figuring out if I had stopped sharing my screen, but I did. So yes, of course.
That's okay.
They can
Great.
absolutely add this. Yes, 100%.
So that original link that I had, I can just send that back out and ask people if they want to go out there to just go ahead and just test it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and then more often than not, I'll make sure that your email is in there as well, Alvaro, so that if they have any questions or have any further interest and so on, I certainly would ask them to. They know where I am. They can find me in real world and otherwise. But certainly, Alvaro has been exceedingly both accommodating and very knowledgeable and helped me getting oriented in this world. So I want to make sure that he gets the credit for that too. All righty. Well, again, thank you very, very much for your time. And audience, thank you for joining us and going through the process. Like I say, we may be calling you back there's folks in the audience here that are part of my board for the IRM organization, and we literally may consider coming back and ask you about the platform. We'd love to do a virtual session somewhere in there. And I may advocate a couple other things. Cindy, did you have anything to mention? I see your mic's open.
No, I was just getting ready to say thank you and appreciate the demonstration.
Oh, good. Good. Thank you. All righty, everyone. Stay well. We've got lots more vendors lining up behind us, which is good. So we'll see you. We're not having one next Tuesday because I'm on vacation. Got to do that once in a while. But everyone stay well, and I'll be shooting out those invites for the future. And Alvaro, again, thank you very, very much. Give my regards to Gustavo, and away we go. Take care.
All right. Thank you everyone for listening. Have a great day. Ciao.
Thank you.